This video is sponsored by War Thunder. This is Ratchet, and you might be wondering how he got here. Well, he's almost 25 years old, and at his advanced age, his knees are shot. So he needs to find other ways of getting around. In fact, in cat years, he's legally dead. He needs to save the universe, and there's not a single accessibility ramp in sight. This begs the question, can you beat Ratchet and Clank without jumping? Let's find out. Here are the rules. But first, have you seen this War Thunder game? It looks great. What's that? This isn't War Thunder? Oh, this is War Thunder. But what's the difference, I hear you ask? Oh, just the fact that War Thunder holds the distinction of being the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever, and this is a side mission on an old PS2 game. War Thunder is available right now for free on PC, PS5, Xbox, and mobile. You take control of over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships across 10 major nations. These range from biplanes and armored cars that you would have seen from the 1920s, all the way to the fighter jets and battle tanks of the modern day. It's easy to lose yourself in the immersive and intense combat. They strive for realism. The graphics, the sound effects, the details on your vehicles themselves. It's all authentic, and you really feel like you're at the helm of history's most powerful war machines. You can even customize your vehicles with more camouflage, historical markings, and decorations. I can't even count them all. There is an impressive X-ray view so you can see exactly where the shells penetrated, which components were damaged, and how the crew themselves were hit. This kind of thing always impresses me. I wish more games did this. War Thunder has been downloaded by over 95 million players, and you can join them today in epic, breathtaking PvP battles. Their sheer amount of high-quality content makes this the best game for fans of military history bar none. Sign up now using my links in the pinned comments or the video description and play War Thunder for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and mobile. If you do sign up with my links, there is a massive bonus pack waiting for new and returning players that haven't played for at least 6 months on PC and console. This pack includes the exclusive vehicle decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 silver lions, and 7 days of premium account. Don't delay though, this pack is only available for a limited time. Thank you War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Back to the rules. Rule number 1, no jumping of any kind. Rule number 2, glitches are fine, just no hacking. And finally, rule number 3, once we defeat Drek, we win. Banning all jumps includes high jumps, long jumps, wall jumps, etc. Also, as an extra challenge, we will be getting all gold bolts in the game. So let's get started. Right at the start of the game on planet Veldin, we break some boxes, squash some frogs, and then we get stuck. It's possible to walk up lower steps in this game by running into them at an angle, but there's no way to walk up this. So that brings us to the obvious question. How do we get any kind of height in this run? Well, it just so happens that the very thing we need is the weapon that the game starts us with, the bomb glove. We're going to use this weapon to perform a bomb proxy. Here's what it looks like. We stand against a certain wall, crouch, turn to face the camera, press L1, and then throw a bomb. This results in Ratchet being propelled upwards quite high into the air, and we can use this to reach the end of Veldin. Here's how it works. First of all, the game's camera has its own hitbox. This is why we can't turn the camera to go through walls. We can further prove this by guiding the camera into crates to break them. Also, if we tap L1, the camera centers behind Ratchet, but if his back is to the wall, the camera zips into Ratchet's body instead. This causes Ratchet to get squashed between the camera and the wall. In most cases, this doesn't do anything. So if we want to get a proxy out of this, there are 2 things we need to ensure. First, we need to do this against a wall that is slightly sloped towards Ratchet and not away from him. Also, if we throw a bomb directly after tapping L1, Ratchet will be in the throwing animation when he gets squashed. This is the criteria we need to result in an upward proxy. We need to perform this bomb proxy at least 3 times on Veldin. But if we're not quite standing in the right spot, or the wall isn't sloped towards us, then we end up wasting bombs. We only get 10 bomb glove ammo at the start of the game, so if we run out, we have no choice but to start the game over and try again. Finding a sloped wall to bypass the second required jump isn't an issue, but for the third required jump, we need to perform the bomb proxy quite far back. as this is the only wall up here that works. Once we're in the air, we can't quite reach the ledge we need to be on, but we can land on this thorny vine thing. From here, we need to run over the edge and use a hyperstrike as we fall to just make it onto the ledge. The rest of Veldin is easy as there are no more jumps needed. Planet Novalis, however, requires many jumps. There are 3 paths we can take right at the start. We can either head towards the watery caves, the waterworks, or we can take the elevator down to the bottom. The watery path is a dead end. None of the rock walls are sloped towards us, and the ledge itself is too low down, as the camera goes right over it when we press L1. The waterwork path is a health and safety nightmare. It's full of required jumps over moving platforms, so we head downwards instead. Getting on the bridge is our first problem, and the walls around here are all very vertical. However, we can bypass this bridge entirely like this. We fall into the water current here, so we can stand on this rock. The big rock in front of us now is sloped towards us, so we can use it for a bomb proxy. The idea is to try and land on the other side of the river, but if we miss and land in the water, we're soft locked, as the only way back out again is to jump out. A nice trick is that if we pause and save the game and then load that save, we respawn at the start of the level where our ship would be. We can use this to get out of any softlocks going forward, or simply just to return to our ship. Anyway, with the right aim, we can make it over the river with a bomb proxy. If we wanted to, we could even use another bomb proxy right here to reach these steps, and then we can walk over to the bridge from here. Since we weren't supposed to reach the bridge from this side, the cutscene that shows the ship blowing holes in the bridge doesn't play, but the holes are actually still there. Anyway, we rescue the mayor to get our new ship, and we receive the infobot for planet Kerwan. We just need to reach our ship again. Whereas we can get onto the small bridge by walking up the back of it, we can't get onto the elevator. So this is a time where manually saving and loading to reach our ship is required. Although in order to get in the ship, we need to get close enough to it. Sometimes these landing pads are a bit difficult to get to, but in this case we can just go around the back of it and step onto it. We decided to leave the last mission and gold bolts for now and head to planet Kerwan. We head straight for Owl's Robo Shack, and there's not a single jump required to reach it. We buy the helipack upgrade, and now we arrive at the helipack tutorial. But before we tackle this, we can fall over the edge here and hover our way down to our first gold bolt of the run. This is also the first of 3 gold bolts on planet Kerwan. Thankfully, the taxi here is low enough for us to just walk onto, but it's not high enough for us to walk off without getting stuck behind this rail. Once again, we save and load to return to our ship. We even keep all collectibles when we do this, so that gold bolt stays with us. Back in the helipack tutorial, all the walls here are very vertical, so we have no chance of a bomb proxy, or at least not in the way that we've been doing them so far. There is another type of proxy that we can do with the bomb glove, and all it requires is a ledge. Step 1, we stand on the very edge of a ledge like this. We can use wrench swings towards the edge to ensure that we are as close to the edge as we can be, since most of the time we can't wrench swing over an edge. Then we angle the camera over the edge so it's underneath Ratchet, and then we slowly rotate the camera towards the wall in the direction Ratchet is facing. This causes the camera to get stuck on the wall, and then it zips upwards into Ratchet's body. As soon as the camera does this, we throw a bomb and tap up on the left stick to rotate 180 degrees at the same time. This results in a proxy that propels us into the air, and it's more than high enough to get up here. This is called a ledge proxy, and it's going to be invaluable in this run. We can use this to clear the entire helipack tutorial. We even need to use another ledge proxy just to get onto this elevator. Just make sure to run off it quickly though, or it sends us back down again. Kerwan's train station actually does have accessibility in mind, as we can access it with this escalator. We clear out all the enemies inside, and we use another bomb proxy against this brown part of the wall as it's sloped just right. When Ratchet pulls himself up a ledge by his arms, I don't consider this to be a jump, since it does not involve his legs. From the top of the wall of luggage, we can use a ledge proxy right here and then start hovering at the apex to reach the area with the gold bolt. We need to ensure that we don't land down below with the robot dogs, or we'll be stuck stuck down there. As long as we stay on top of the luggage, we can continue to use ledge proxies to reach the second gold bolt. We will need to use a series of ledge proxies again to get back to the main part of the train station. We're gonna need a lot of bomb glove ammo. Generally, it's a good idea to avoid using any other weapon in combat, that way all ammo pickups will be for the bomb glove. I wish I'd realized that sooner. Several ledge proxies later and we reach the train itself. We don't even need to use a proxy to reach the next car of the train. We can just run over the edge, quickly hover, and then just grab onto the edge of the next car. After doing this several times, we're at the end. Getting off the train looked like it might have been an issue, but we can actually just grab the edge in front of us and pull ourselves up. That gets us the info bot for planet Eudora. Before we head there though, we'd like to beat the obstacle course for the swing shot. The ledge proxy is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. It's basically the only trick we used throughout the entire obstacle course. Something to note though, some ledges don't allow ledge proxies to work. It all depends on the shape of the wall below Ratchet. The more vertical it is, the better. A nice vertical wall below us like this results in a nice easy ledge proxy. And we can even use this to reach the planet's third and final gold bolt over on the isolated platform close to the second part of the obstacle course. Getting to the top of the second part of the obstacle course is a fair bit more difficult compared to the first. Some of the ledges don't allow for an easy proxy, but there are still parts that work. We even need to use a ledge proxy just to reach the zip lines, and with that we now own the swing shot. For once I kind of agree with Helga here, we did disgrace the obstacle course a little bit. We're done on Kerwan now. Once again, the quickest and easiest way back to the ship is just to save and load, although this landing pad is too high for us to get onto. However, if we run around the back, we can run into this tree to just get up there. Now that we have the helipack, we can return to planet Novalis. If we hover at the apex of a bomb proxy, we can cover a lot more distance per proxy. We can use this to cross the pools of water on the watery path, but it isn't long before we're blocked by these steps. Instead, if we reload and return to the pool of water before the cave, there is another trick we can do. We use a bomb proxy against this rock, and then we hover against this part of the wall as we descend. If we can find the right spot, we can clip right through the wall and land on the surface of the water out of bounds. We can now swim in air, since the game thinks we're on the water's surface, and if we stay on the surface we won't run out of air, so we can seemingly swim wherever we want. There is a limitation though, we can't swim upwards beyond where we entered the water. Doing so will remove the swim in air glitch completely. We can use this to swim directly to the end of the cave that we were stuck in earlier. We need to blow up a wall here and we can't use our bombs in the water, but as we said, we can submerge and swim back up to the surface to remove the glitch. We fall down to the ground and now we can blow up the wall as normal. That is the first of 3 gold bolts on Novalis. We can use the same out of bounds method again, only this time we go for a longer swim, making sure to avoid any inbound areas. We can swim all the way to a cave that we're not supposed to be able to reach yet without the hydro pack. There is a gold bolt hidden in that cave and we can swim directly above it. We submerge, we swim up, and we hover down to land on top of it. That is 2 out of 3 gold bolts on Novalis. We save and load to be taken back to our ship. I tried to use this same out of bounds swim in air glitch to help reach the end of the waterworks section, but unfortunately the area is much too high to reach. I even swam directly beneath the room where the plumber cutscene happens, in the hopes that maybe the trigger for the cutscene would extend all the way down, but no luck. We can swim over this circular room though, and since it's not solid from the outside, we can submerge to get inside. It's the gold weapon room. We're not supposed to be able to be here yet, but now we're trapped in here and we're about to drown. I spammed a few buttons in panic and I ended up accidentally buying the gold blaster. The cutscene even disabled the swim in air, although it did cost me 20,000 bolts. Oh well, there is a teleporter that takes us back to our ship, but since we're not supposed to be able to reach this room yet, the teleporter near the ship doesn't exist yet. We fly over to planet Eudora next, and the one and only gold bolt here is very close to the start of the level. It's right up there. The rock walls here aren't sloped right, but there is a nearby ledge we can use to reach it. We can even use the tree route here to walk up the ledge to get back near our ship. There are 2 paths on this planet. One leads to a new weapon and the other leads to an info bot. The path to the weapon is quite a bit longer for some reason, and there are many gaps along the way. It takes a lengthy series of ledge proxies to to travel along this path. Oddly, clearing large gaps is easier in this run than just getting up some steps. Fortunately, we don't need to go the long way to reach the new weapon. All we need to do is use a couple of ledge proxies near to where we got the gold bolt. This bypasses the entire intended path to this weapon, and now we have the suck cannon. Naturally, just saving and loading gets us back to the ship. The path to reach the infobot normally requires a gadget called the Trespasser. This gadget is found on planet Aridia, and we get the infobot for that planet at the end of the waterworks section on Novalis, which we couldn't reach. The simple solution to this is a ledge proxy to reach the roof of this building, and then another proxy to get through the window. That gives us the infobot for the Blarg Station. The landing pad is just a bit too high for us, and the nearby ledge has a tree to prevent us from using a ledge proxy. Thankfully, a save and load puts us on the higher ledge next to the landing pad, and now we head to the Blarg Station. There are 3 ways to go. One of them requires the Trespasser, so I guess there are 2 ways to go. We board a ship to a separate part of the station, and we see the first enemy in the game that uses an attack that we're supposed to jump over, so it's best we fight these at a distance. There are no jumps required to reach the end of this path, but we do have a time limit to run back out again before the place explodes. Thankfully, this ship is wheelchair accessible, since there is a ramp right here. There are some slight step-ups required, but Ratchet can just run up them if we run at it at an angle. This gets us the infobot for planet Rilgar. We're not done with the Blarg Station yet. The next path leads to the gadget that we'd like to have. Our first issue is this room. The thin ground here makes it quite difficult to pull off a ledge proxy, but it is possible right here. We can even latch onto the swing shot target in mid-air to reach the end of this room, but the very next room is very out of reach. This ledge is far too high. None of the walls here are sloped right, and there are no ledges nearby at all. We tried to get a ledge proxy in the previous room to see if we could reach the roof, but the ceiling seems to be completely solid. For some reason, you can actually run up the wall here, and with a few wrench swings, we can fall right through the wall. This isn't helpful, it's just odd. If we can't carry on from here, this means we can't reach the boss fight, nor can we reach the grind boots beyond the boss. Back at our ship, the final path behind the Trespasser door is supposed to be taken by Clank. But if we ledge proxy from here, we can go right over the door and explore this path as Ratchet. It's a bit precarious, but we can make our way along here without jumping, despite how awkward it is. We can hover as we run over the edge to make it across this gap. And a ledge proxy after that lets us reach the first of 2 gold bolts in the Blarg Station. One more ledge proxy gets us close to the end, but there is a laser door blocking our way. Clank is supposed to deactivate these laser doors with Gadgetbots, but without the Trespasser we can't do that. We tried to go over the roof, and whereas we can stand on the grey parts, we just slide right off the red parts. However, it turns out we don't need to be doing any of this. The end of this area is quite close to the start. A single ledge proxy from the start gets us right to the end, and we grab a new gadget, the Hydro Displacer. Once again, we save and load to get back out of here with our collectibles intact. There is a good reason to go back into Clank's section though. We get back to the point where we ledge proxied on top of this part of the station. We can ledge proxy again to reach the top of the thrusters, and with this height we can perform one more ledge proxy to make it all the way up to the grind rail tunnel. The tunnel itself isn't solid, so we go right through. The grind rail is solid, so if we hover against it, we can stay suspended. With careful movement, we can hover against the rail all the way along it to reach the room where the rail starts. That room is where we buy the grind boots. So basically, it seems like we can skip the boss fight that we couldn't reach earlier. However, once we make it to the end of the grind rail, we see that the door to the room is closed. All we can do is stand on the very edge of the door frame, but we have no way of getting inside. I did manage to get a ledge proxy here, but the top of the door frame is solid, so we hit our head and fall to our doom. However, there is a way to get on the other side of this door from here. All we need to do is run over the edge and start hovering immediately. We need to aim for the big circular room before we buy the grind boots. This is the room with the boss fight inside, and the trigger for the boss fight extends downwards far further than you'd think. As soon as we touch it, we are warped into the boss room. All we need to do now is defeat the boss as normal. Our Gold Blaster works wonders for this, and then we carry on to the next room to buy the grind boots. There is still one more gold bolt in this level, and we need to backtrack from here to reach it. But there is a problem. This laser grid door. The gold bolt is just on the other side. The only way to turn off this laser door is from the other side of the door. To get on the other side, we need to get up that high ledge that we got stuck at earlier. The walls and ceiling around the door all seem to be solid except for this grey part on the side. If we hover through that part and then blindly hover towards the room on the other side, we can clip right on through. The gold bolt is on an upper ledge, but we can use this sloped grate to get a bomb proxy, and that means we can reach the second gold bolt on the Blarg Station. To get onto the landing pad here, we can go around the railing to the back and drop over the edge to grab on and pull ourselves up. We move on to planet Rilgar. We have two paths to choose from. We use a ledge proxy and the swing shot to get across the left path. This leads to the water puzzle section, but entering any inbounds water in this run is practically a softlock, since jumping is the only way back out again. Ledge proxies only get us so far until we have no choice but to enter the water, so now we need to find another way. We reload to get back to the ship, use the swing shot to reach this pipe again, but now we want to fall down into the water below in a specific spot. If we find it, we can clip through the rock wall and swim across the water's surface out of bounds. After swimming this way for a few seconds, we fall down to a lower surface of water. Normally, a giant fish would eat us if we land in this water, but it can't get us if we're this far out of bounds. We are now level with the underwater puzzle area that we couldn't get through. We can swim all the way to the very end of this section, but if we get too close, the game pushes us downward for some reason. We are now level with the start of the long corridor that slowly fills with water. We can swim inside this corridor if we want, but without being able to jump, we will inevitably drown. We want to swim into this pipe. If we then swim a little too far this way, the game zips us somewhere. I looked all around and I couldn't see anything. The map shows that we're still in the same place though. We can do the usual submerge and resurface to remove the swim in air and then hover down. We will fall down for ages. Eventually we start to see some ships, followed by the spotlights and then the rooftops, which means we were zipped miles into the sky. Using this trick, we can land just about anywhere we want in the entire level, including on top of this hidden gold bolt that normally requires the O2 mask to reach. Of course, we could use this same trick to land right at the end of the level if we wanted to, but I did actually take the time and effort to travel across the level's second path. Any required jump that we found along the way was solved by the odd ledge proxy anyway, including having to go over the top and around this building just to get on the other side of it. Passing through here unlocks a shortcut to get back here, so we have easy access to the Rhino Salesman for the future. The cave section doesn't require a jump at all, and following that we see the maze of laser barriers. Once we get through the maze, we're supposed to jump on top of the maze to reach a gold bolt. Once we get the tank out of the way, we can just use a ledge proxy and hover over to the top of the maze. Normally I would jump from beam to beam for speed, but we need to walk along the beams carefully to reach the gold bolt without either jumping or falling off. That is 2 out of 2 gold bolts on Rilgar. We have successfully reached the Hoverboard Race, but without a hoverboard we can't race. And without unlocking Aridia, we can't get the hoverboard. We can use a ledge proxy to reach a nearby roof though. It's a bit precarious up here. We even had to use ledge shimmying to get by this part. We fall down here and land right next to Quark's trailer. That gives us the info bot for planet Umbris, so we fly there. We can use the swing shot targets without jumping if we just walk close enough, so the first gap isn't an issue. The turrets rapid fire across the ground. There are a couple of methods of avoiding damage without jumping. We can hang over the edge, we can hide behind things like the trees, or we can just shoot the turrets. However, we soon come to mandatory jumping sections like these steps. We can bypass certain sections of this level by using ledge proxies. We just need to make sure the homing mines are destroyed first. fast. Another proxy gets us to the bridge, which is also a checkpoint, and we can proxy on this edge too to reach the barbed wire section. Again, we can't jump over the turret's gunfire, so either we make sure we have a good amount of health before running through, or we ledge proxy again to go right over to the next area. We hit all 3 buttons in time to open the next door. Thankfully, we can do that without needing to jump. Before we move on though, one of the 2 gold bolts in this level is behind another locked door. There's another 3 buttons we need to press in time, but they are across gaps. If we were very quick with ledge proxies, then maybe we could reach them all in time, but there is another way. There is a relatively known glitch on this planet called Ghost Ratchet. To trigger it, all we need to do is land in the mud, but also use the swing shot as we fall to pull ourselves back out of the mud before we die. This confuses the game, and now we can walk right through many of the level's solid walls. It might not work with all walls, and it doesn't seem to work with doors or door frames, but it's still enough to get through the wall here to grab the gold bolt. There is a staircase we need to climb to carry on the level. I tried to use Ghost Ratchet to clip into the sides of the stairs, but it's very awkward. Plus, Ghost Ratchet only lasts for 3 minutes. Something to note though, we cannot use proxies during Ghost Ratchet. They simply stop working. We can use a ledge proxy without Ghost Ratchet to land in the area above the stairs, but now we need to grab a ladder with no ledge or sloped walls in sight. However, there is something we can do, as long as we didn't destroy any crates in this area. If we did, we can restart the level to respawn the crates and get back here the same way we already did. We open the door again by hitting those 3 buttons, and then we ledge proxy from here again over the wall. We destroy all floating mines, making sure to leave the crates alone. When the mines are gone, we leave through the door, back down the stairs and into the previous area. Use the same ledge proxy again, but this time we make sure to land on top of one of the stacked crates. Thankfully, you can wrench swing to the edge of the crates too. Another ledge proxy can get us over to the next stack of crates, and a third ledge proxy gets us over the wall and onto another stack of crates. I could have just hovered directly to the ladder, but a ledge proxy from here gets us onto the ladder anyway. This gives us another checkpoint, but now we face a water puzzle, which is a problem. We can use a ledge proxy from here, followed up with a hover around the building to land on top of the second gold bolt. Unfortunately, we can't get through the water section without jumping, so we resorted to the tried and true bomb proxies and ledge proxies. Using these, we made decent progress. However, we actually ran out of bombs, which goes to show just how many proxies we've had to use to make it this far. There is another way though. We need to get Ghost Ratchet again, and then we return to these stairs. It is actually possible to walk up the sloped side of the stairs. It's just very precise. Now we can run through the wall on the left of the ladder, and after we do that, we want to ledge proxy, but we need to wait out the rest of the 3 minutes for Ghost Ratchet to wear off first. The ground is invisible, so we use a wrench swing to make sure we're on the edge, and we can proxy up to the edge of one of the water tanks above. We're still out of bounds though. We want to hit the water surface above us for a swim in air. If we can find an angle where we can get the camera to aim down over the edge, we can use a ledge proxy to hit the water. Now we can swim around the level and right towards the boss room at the end. The massive square of lava spawns when we get too close, and we can even see the info bot down below. We can use the usual strat of submerging, swimming back up and then hovering down as the swim in air glitch deactivates. As soon as we touch the info bot, we're stuck in this room, but since the game auto-saved, we can just load our save to spawn back at our ship, and we still keep the info bot. The landing pad is actually out of our reach here. We have to use a ledge proxy just to make it over to our ship. The next planet is Batalia. The Gadgetron vendor here is even wheelchair accessible if we use the ramp nearby. We can reach the grind rail and just about step onto it, but jumping is definitely required to get from rail to rail, so we don't get very far. There is a gold bolt on the roof of this building. Normally we would wall jump to get up there, but we can just use a ledge proxy. If we fall down to the lower level at any point, it might be awkward to get back back up again, so it's safer to just ignore the bolt cranks and ledge proxy our way to victory. This allows us to reach the second of 2 gold bolts on Batalia. Interestingly, from here we get a good view of the small platform at the end of the grind rail section. It's much too far away to hover to, even with a good proxy. We'll keep that platform in mind for later though. For now, we will proxy our way to the other side of the bridge. We can't even step up here, so that's another proxy, just to reach the water. And now, we're stuck in the water. We actually have to ledge proxy from the waterfall at the side. It's a good thing that waterfall's there. One more proxy gets us to the end of the level, and we're told we need Magna Boots to proceed. And then we're given the info bot for Orxon. Instead of leaving Batalia though, we just use another ledge proxy to clear the gap. No Magna Boots required. There's even another accessibility ramp over here. Another proxy gets us to the 2 tanks. This bridge is just too low down for us to reach the grassy part, so we're forced to use another proxy. We now meet the plumber for the first time, even though it's supposed to be the second time. So they talk as if they've already met. Too bad he won't give me the Aridia info bot here. Oh well. We use this turret to shoot down the ships and we earn the bolt detector. We can't quite reach the taxi thing that flies us back, but thanks to the accessibility ramps we can just walk back. Mostly. Now forget it, we'll just save and load instead. We return to the spot where we found the second gold bolt, where we can see the end of the grind rail section. We want to use a ledge proxy to reach a part of the cliff next to us that we can stand on, which is right here. Another ledge proxy gets us to the very top of the cliff, and a third ledge proxy gets us enough height to hover all the way over to this waterfall. This whole section with the waterfall is actually solid ground, which surprised me. We just need to be careful not to get too close to the cliff on the left side or we'll clip inside it and get stuck. If we use another ledge proxy to land on the end of the grind rail, Ratchet will latch onto it automatically and travel towards where we want to be. But there's a problem. Since we didn't ride most of the grind rail, we don't have the momentum we need to ride off the edge and land on the platform at the end. For some reason, the game doesn't allow us to start to hover right away at the end of a grind rail. There is a solution though. If we swing our wrench at the very moment that we reach the end of the grind rail, we can start hovering sooner than usual. With that, we can now reach the final platform and get the info bot for planet Gaspar. There is a teleporter to get us back to the ship too. The landing pad is out of reach, but we can run off the edge here and grab on to pull ourselves up. We head to planet Gaspar next, and right away we can see the first of 2 gold bolts on a ledge above our ship. The normal path to that ledge is quite long and full of enemies and lava, but we can get right up there from below with a simple ledge proxy. There is another path that's very heavy on the platforming. There are many gaps we need to get across. The first one can be cleared by running over the edge and hovering down. We can use more ledge proxies to make more progress, but they're not always possible on the lower platforms. However, if we break one of these lights, it's possible to stand on top of it with wrench swings towards it. This gives us just enough height to get a ledge proxy. We make sure to swing far enough with the swing shot to land all the way to the sandy ledge instead of the metal floor, which helps to bypass a jump or two. After the next swing shot section, there are floating platforms that sink into the lava when stood on. However, we can take advantage of the bounce that we get when Ratchet touches the lava. We can use it to get across these platforms. We just need to remember that any more than 2 bounces on the lava in a row and it's an instant death. We can see the second gold bolt on a ledge across the lava, and to get there we're supposed to jump across more sinking platforms. We probably could damage boost from platform to platform, but with the damage boosting we already did to get here, we don't have enough health. Sure enough, we die and spawn back at the ship. So we'll take the level's main path instead. It isn't long before we hit another obstacle though. We shoot down this big metal door with a turret, but we can't get over the door frame. It looks like wrench swinging might just get us up here, but not quite. Instead, we can bypass the entire path with a simple ledge proxy right here. As with several other levels, sometimes the end is close to the start, and we can grab the pilot's helmet. As for the second gold bolt, we can actually see the platform that it's on from all the way up here. It's a bit too far to reach though, even with a proxy. All we need to do is use the sloped archway of this door to bomb proxy our way onto the roof of this building. The only part that we can stand on is where the turret is. The turret itself isn't solid. From here, we can use another ledge proxy and hover all the way down to where we were earlier. The difference is, this time we have full health. and with exactly 2 damage boosts we can just reach the gold bolt. That's Gaspar 100% complete. I tried to use this sloped rock to get onto the landing pad, but I kept slipping off, so I ended up having to use a ledge proxy in the end. Now we head to planet Orxon, the level where we must play as Clank first, as the polluted air is toxic to Ratchet. If you've seen speedruns of this game, you know there are methods of gaining a lot of height as Clank that are very similar to ledge proxies. However, the only way to gain the amount of height the speedrunners do is by jumping. This means we're going the old-fashioned way. We're going to beat Clank's path normally. Mostly. First of all, these teleporters that we can use to get the Gadgetbots up to higher ledges also work for Clank, so this helps us to avoid all jumps early on. We soon see this section where a couple of jumps is clearly intended, but we can actually just run up this slope on the right, throw a couple of punches and just about grab the edge. There is a gold bolt right above us, but we'll be back for that later. Orxon actually has an accessibility ramp right here. Very progressive, Orxon, well done. Next we see a closed door and a ledge we're supposed to jump up to. There's no way we're getting up there, but we don't have to. There is a trick we can do here called Clank Clips. Basically, we can get the camera to push Clank through walls. To do this, we stand with our back to a wall, or in this case a door, and then we tap L1 to zoom the camera right in and press both up and punch together. The camera connects with Clank right as he is rotating and punching at the same time, and this causes the camera to push us right through. With this trick we can unlock this door and a few more doors, no jumps required. We find the Magna Boots, but Clank's path keeps going. Fortunately, since this part of the level requires us to guide more Gadgetbots, there are plenty more accessibility ramps for us. So other than a few Clank clips, this whole path is played mostly casually. I'm surprised too. Right at the end, we find the info bot for Pokitaru, but we have to drop down a level to reach it. This means that we're stuck down here after the cutscene, but all we have to do is use one more Clank clip to go through the railing. We can even hover down to our ship as we fall, which is lucky because I don't know how we would have gotten onto the landing pad otherwise. Pokitaru is exactly where we want to head next. There's a new weapon in the vendor that we want to buy now that we're here, the decoy glove. There are 2 paths here too. One is reached with a teleporter, but it's also full of underwater sections. As usual in this run, falling into water is bad news, as we almost always have to jump to get back out again. The other path is basically an escort quest for this NPC. He can't die or anything, but we have to clear out all the enemies in front of him before he moves on. The NPC will drive a ferry for us, but just getting on the ferry requires a ledge proxy. We defeat all the enemies and then the ferry raises upwards when we reach the end, which is lucky as the extra height allows us to perform a ledge proxy off the side of the ferry. We can't even get out of the shallow water without a ledge proxy. The next ferry doesn't raise out of the water, but we were just able to squeeze out a ledge proxy off the side. We can just get up this tiny step if we run at an angle, and then we buy the thruster pack. Of course, the thruster pack is required to ground pound these big buttons, which we can't do since you have to jump first. It's not enough to just be airborne, we have to jump, or the ground pound won't trigger. The thruster pack does have a use though. If we fall into the pool of shallow water, we can't get back out again, but if we double tap the R1 button, we can hover over the ground. This allows us to strafe, but it also allows us to hover up small steps or slopes like this, but only if we approach it sideways. Anyway, if we can't press this big button to open the hangar, we can use a classic trick to get inside instead. Decoy clipping. If we throw decoys down at our feet as we're standing against a wall, sometimes the decoys can clip us through the wall. We can do this to get inside the hangar, and even though we haven't opened the door, we can still trigger the dogfight mission. We're supposed to shoot down the flying ships over the level. However, there's something else we can use this jet for. This level has one single gold bolt on it. To reach it, we must swim through an underwater tunnel and also use the thruster pack to hit a button to create a bridge. Even with ledge proxies, getting there would not be easy. However, it's actually possible to see that gold gold bolt down below as we fly over it. If we fly towards it, the game tries to push us back up automatically to prevent us from crashing. If we hold the X button to speed boost, we can get low enough to touch the gold bolt. Even though the cutscene of Ratchet grabbing the gold bolt starts, if the ship crashes, we reappear back in front of the hangar without the gold bolt in our inventory. We need the cutscene to finish if the gold bolt is going to count. This means we need to swoop down and pull up perfectly to just touch the gold bolt and avoid hitting the ground. When we finally nail it, Ratchet is standing on top of the jet during the bolt grabbing cutscene. I couldn't believe it. He's almost as big as the jet itself. All we need to do now is finish the dogfight mission to earn the O2 mask. With that, we've done all we can do on Pokitaru for now. We use the teleporter to return to our ship. We don't even need to use the landing pad. We can stand underneath the landing pad and still get inside the ship from there. Now we can return to planet Orxon as Ratchet this time. Ledge proxies get across the initial gaps and to the Magna Boot section. The Taunter makes quick work of these horrible scorpion-like enemies. We can even use the swing shot from the lower level to get over the energy gate. This was the point I realized that Ratchet won't grab edges during a strafe hover. This path has plenty of edges on it though, so with ledge proxies at our disposal, we can reach the metal room easily enough. We find the info bot for planet Hoven at the top, and we drop down into Clank's path below. Both gold bolts on planet Orxon are found on Clank's path, but they can only be reached as Ratchet. Of course, jumps are usually needed. We can see one of them on the high up platform, and we're supposed to travel through a long tunnel to reach it. However, we can get a bomb proxy off this sloped rock and hover over to the gold bolt. We're using the helipack for slower hovers to be more precise with our landings. The other gold bolt normally requires a wall jump right in the middle of Clank's path. There's no way to get a proxy from below, but there is another way. Back at our ship, we can take this elevator up here, and from here, we can use a ledge proxy to get onto the nearby roof. More ledge proxies can be used to reach the higher parts of the roof, but the ledge proxies up here are very awkward to pull off. When we finally get the height we need, we can just hover to the second gold bolt. There's only one thing left to find in this level, the nanotech upgrade vending machine. If we save and load to return to our ship, we can take the path that leads to the vending machine, but without being able to jump, we soon get stuck. There's nothing to proxy off here, and the only spot we can use for a ledge proxy has a low ceiling, so we just hit our heads and fall down. No worries, we'll use the same strat we did earlier to reach the rooftop. We just need to aim for the distant elevators this time, being careful not to bump into any invisible walls. We actually can't reach the vending machine like this, but we can get just close enough to trigger the checkpoint right next to the vending machine before we fall into the void. Sure enough, when we die, we reload next to the vending machine. It's important that we stand on this elevator to create a shortcut back here for later, but the only way to get this elevator to move is to trigger the previous elevator first, the one that we would have used normally to reach this room. Only then will our shortcut elevator actually move down. After that, we can save and load to return to the ship. To get onto this landing pad, there's no proxy required. We can use this elevator to reach the higher level and then just hover down from there. We'll fly to Hoven now. We'll head down the path that leads to the Raritanium first. We can reach the swing shot target from this side of the river, but we can't get much further than this since we need to use wall jumps. We tried to use ledge proxies to get to the very end of this path since it's actually directly above our ship. Even though we can stand on this building, the ledge we want to reach is just too high up. However, if we go back to the icy part again, we can use a ledge proxy to reach the doorway we came through. From there, we can ledge proxy up to the building above us, but we can't stand on it. We can, however, hover against it and move around it to reach the ledge in front of it. We're supposed to quickly press 3 buttons to remove the lasers blocking the entrance, which would be challenging with the ice physics without jumping. However, if we aim the camera to the side, we can see the lasers disappear. I figured they would still prevent us from entering the building even if we can't see the lasers, but no, we could just walk right through. That's the Raritanium obtained. The first of 2 gold bolts is on a high platform near the start. Wall jumps are required to reach it, and there aren't any viable proxy locations nearby. But check this out. At the bottom of the ledge, we can use decoys to clip through the wall. It's a bit awkward, but after enough tries, it can be done. We need to be careful not to go too far or we'll fall to our deaths. But once we're out here, we need to wrench swing to the right side and then to the edge to set up a ledge proxy. It's tough to know the exact right position since only some of the rocks above us are solid. I have hit my head and died here before and had to do the annoying decoy clip all over again, but when we get it right, it looks like this. And we only just grabbed the edge too. I knew from watching speedruns that if you can get Ratchet directly underneath the high up turret at the end of the level, he gets warped into the turret, since its trigger extends all the way down. However, the only way to get underneath it in this run is to ledge proxy into the air and then hover down. It turns out we can't activate the trigger while hovering or falling, because of course we can't. So we make our way there the normal way. We can just grab on the edges of the moving platforms as we fall. We probably could have done the same thing with the next moving platform, but we played it safe with a proxy instead. Proxies remain the answer until we see the wall jump section after the conveyor belt that leads to the homing mines. No thank you, we'll just proxy up here to the end of the level instead. After the turret section, we earn the info bot for Gemlik Base. The only other path on Hoven leads to where we purchased the hydro pack. It's a good thing there's a slightly lower ledge near the ledge we want to reach. Once we're up here, the idea is to fall down inside this room and use the hydro displacer to fill the room with water. But of course, landing in water in this run means we're stuck. Instead, we head back to the cave entrance and proxy up towards the cliffs. We can hover along the cliff until it isn't solid anymore and we can land out of bounds on the edge of the water building. Now, from here, our plan is to use a couple of ledge proxies to reach the top of the building from the outside. But then we remembered that there is a gold bolt in that building and it just so happens to be in the bottom right of the map on the high ledge in a small cave. We're basically on the opposite side of the room, so we need to ledge proxy all the way around the room, trying to land on any small bits of solid terrain that we can. Landing in the water below is essentially a soft lock as there's no way back out again without jumping. We could swim in air towards the hydro pack upgrade, but we're far too low down to hit any checkpoints like this. That's when we realized a far better strategy. Once we're on the outside of this building, all we have to do is clip inside the building itself, making sure to not land in any of the shallow pools of water inside, and then decoy clip through this wall right here. There is a decent sized platform on the other side of the wall here, and it's directly below the gold bolt. The level tends to disappear when we stand here, so we place the decoy down to help us get our bearings. All we have to do now is get an awkward ledge proxy onto the nearby higher platform, and then get one more ledge proxy to grab onto a rock sticking out of the wall above. We pull up, walk right through the wall, and grab the gold bolt. We save and load to get back to the start of Hoven again, since we want to get back on the outside of the building again. We can land directly inside the building, but on a higher platform this time. A proxy from here would cause us to hit our head on the ceiling, but we can just fall down to the slightly lower platform and ledge proxy from there. This makes reaching the top trivial. There are a lot of crates in the next area, but there are no required jumps here at all. We can even run up the snow here to get inside the workshop. There's no easy way onto this landing pad though, a ledge proxy will have to do. Since we have the raritanium, we head back to Pokitaru, since there's an NPC there we can trade it with. The problem is the NPC is at the end of the water section. However, if we fall down into the water behind the ship and swim down to the very bottom, there's a part of the ground that's not completely solid. We can squeeze down there and under the level entirely. The water section is located down here, so if we swim close to the room with the NPC, we can make the trade for the Persuader. There's even a teleporter in here to return us back to our ship. The Persuader just provides a passive discount to all Gadgetron vendors, but I'd like to get all the collectibles in the game if possible. When we arrive at Gemlik Base, we make sure to buy the Visibomb. We're going to need it. We can just run over the edge and hover down to cross the bridge below. We can get off the bridge by running into the corner section. Not all of Drek's robots are well made. Some of them have navigation directional issues. There are plenty of edges we can use for ledge proxies all over the level, especially the outside sections, but a lot of the edges have fences blocking them. It's not long before we see a door that requires a gadget to unlock. That gadget is the Trespasser, and it's found on the planet we've not been able to unlock, Aridia. Thankfully, we can proxy up to the level above, and now we can skip 2 Trespasser doors. We need to make sure not to stand on the dark parts up here though. If we do, we lose control of Ratchet as he enters the falling animation, and the game considers us to have fallen to our death. We find ourselves inside the base. There are pools of deadly green liquid rising up and down. We can use this to damage boost from one side to the other, but if we keep up with the ledge proxies whenever we can conserve health. We had to damage boost our way to here since the ceiling is so low. We can see the gold bolt behind some lasers. To turn them off, we need to use the Visibomb. We can fire it through the hole in the wall behind us, and then guide it through another hole above the room that we're in. We guide it down the vent and destroy this big pylon thing which turns off the lasers. One proxy later and we have the one and only gold bolt in the level. I ended up needing 2 more damage boosts to get back out of this room and to reach the next ledge. We only have 2 hits left, and we're about to land in front of a bunch of enemies that shoot across the ground. We can't jump, so taking at least 1 hit here was expected, but we were so lucky to avoid that second hit. Now we have a big gap to clear. Even with a decent ledge proxy, we can only just make it to the toxic barrels. We need to hit the quickest proxy of my life to get up here before the green goo rises, and we just managed to pull it off first try, only for us to get stuck in the very next area. There are no ledges or sloped walls. We tried to decoy clip through this fence, but we didn't have any luck, and this makes my eyes hurt. Since we already have the only gold bolt in the level, we figured we'd restart and find another way to get to where we want to be. Right at the very start of the level, we can ledge proxy up to a higher part on the left. We are ahead of where we were stuck before, and if we carry on down the path from here, we ride a metal platform into an open room full of enemies. Defeating them all is fine, but directly following that room is a tall staircase in a small corridor. There's no chance of a proxy inside this room, but we might not need one. Once again, we must restart the level and use ledge proxies to reach the same part of the level, but this time, we don't want to enter the room full of enemies. Instead, we head the other direction to reach the other side of the building that we got stuck at the first time. The doors that open are the perfect slope shape for a bomb proxy. We used that bomb proxy to get over the small fence first, and now we can stand on the very edge for a ledge proxy. This is as close as we can get to the area beyond the stairs that we can't climb, but we still can't get enough height. However, we don't need the height. All we need to do is get close enough to trigger the cutscene with Quark. This starts the boss fight, but skipping this boss fight is also very easy, so I had to do it. All you have to do is pause the game and quit to return to the level, and then we can just ledge proxy our way over this gap. Once we're over here, when we see the red flash, Quark's ship model loads in, but if we death abuse now, the game triggers the cutscene that plays after we defeat Quark. There is another gold weapon room at the top of this tower. We're supposed to wall jump to get up there, but a ledge proxy is good enough. This is the first time that I am buying a gold weapon intentionally, and I chose the gold suck cannon. To get onto the landing pad, we can just fall over the edge here and grab on. That brings us to planet Oltanis, and Ratchet must fully complete this level on his own. Not being able to hover is going to make things harder, but let's see how we do. Proxies get us to the main central platform, and then we take the metal path first. The most annoying things on this path are the gusts of wind. They prevent us from skipping the icy platforms, and considering the icy platforms have electricity traps on them, that's very annoying. Using ledge proxies on the ice is horrible, since we can't wrench swing to the edge without falling off. Using a proxy to get over the wind is tough but doable. We had to do it from the lower platform though to be close enough. The first of 4 gold bolts on this planet is on this path, and it's one of the easiest to reach in the whole game. We just need to fall over the edge right here. We wanted to proxy back up, but I fell off the edge instead. That's fine, we can just get back again in the same way that we did. There is a second gold bolt on this path too, and it's oddly close to the first one. We need to grab the edge above us. We proxied up, but we ended up grabbing the edge of the bent metal poles instead. I didn't even know you could grab these. Just tapping R1 drops drops us down. We grab the ledge we wanted and shimmy our way over to reach the second gold bolt. The final hurdle on this path is a line of ice with multiple electric traps along it. You'd think we could just proxy over each trap, but there is also a gust of wind pushing us along the path as soon as we land on it. Since we can't jump, we are forced to take damage. We die in just 4 hits, and there just so happens to be 4 lines of electricity. We could have returned to Orxon to upgrade our health, but we had another idea. If we land on the icy path as close to the start of it as we can, and then hold forward, we can build up enough momentum to go through all of the electricity as fast as possible. That means, thanks to immunity frames, we can avoid the damage on the 4th trap, and now we can buy the PDA. Next, we want to ride this taxi, and we need to ledge proxy just to get onto it. Not being able to hover means not being able to slow our descent, so we missed the taxi a few times, but we did get on it eventually. This begins the stealth section. Stay out of the spotlights and we don't get shot by the turrets. We can just hang over the edge and shimmy across to avoid the first spotlight. This is where we see how much better the gold suck cannon is compared to the normal version. We get so much more ammo this time, and the ammo can hit targets above ground. We can reach this swing shot target from the sloped rubble, and a ledge proxy gets us up to the top without having to use the ladder. The swing shot gets us to these unstable circular platforms. I proxied onto the first one only to be reminded that a turret shoots you up here, so I just visibomb the turret from here. These platforms are quite small, and not being able to slow our descent makes it very easy to miss our landing. Dying here means starting the stealth section all over again. Thankfully, we can reach the swing shot target from the 3rd platform. We definitely take out all the enemies before dropping down to the platform below. I wasn't sure if we'd be able to make it there just by running over the edge, and I really didn't want to have to do this path again for the 4th time. We backed up and made a run for it, only for PSN to sign me out at that very moment, causing the game to stutter. That was tense, but we made it. A proxy gets us up to the morph array, and a grind rail gets us back to the ship. The next path on this planet doesn't start off too well. There's a required jump right away, and no nearby edges. But we have a better plan. We return to the taxi from before and proxy back onto it to be taken to this platform again. Now we use another ledge proxy near this corner to grab onto this tall piece of metal. From here, we can see a 3rd gold bolt on an isolated platform down below. Even if we use a ledge proxy from here, we still wouldn't make it over to that platform without being able to hover. However, this is where we can make use of the PDA. If we open and close the PDA menu continuously as we fall, each time we close it, Ratchet moves forward a little bit. This gives us just enough distance to reach the platform if we spam the PDA over and over as we fall, and this allows us to claim our 3rd gold bolt. We thought about maybe using that same trick to land somewhere further on the path that we got stuck on, but now that we know about this tech with the PDA, we have a better idea. The metal elevator that we used at the start of the level is still there above the central platform, and if we use a ledge proxy, we can get on top of it from below. Better yet, on this side of the metal platform, we don't stick to it with our magna boots. This means that we can get a ledge proxy off it, and then we can use the PDA tech to slowly fall forwards towards the upper part of where we buy the info bot for planet Quartu. When we pull this off, this means that we have skipped the entire path that we got stuck on earlier. Now we can press this button to lower the ladder, which also triggers a passing ship to destroy this statue. Hitting the button under the statue spawns some swing shot targets. We can reach them from the ground, and we can get all the way to the end of this section without needing a single jump. Once we're at the end, we can see the 4th gold bolt ahead partway through the path that we skipped. PDA tech can get us down there without the need for a proxy, and the swing shot gets us up to the final gold bolt on Oltanis. A save and load gets us back to the ship, and a ledge proxy is required to get onto the landing pad. We fly to planet Quartu. There is an optional underwater section right at the start, but as always, water is evil. We can just proxy our way to the end of that path instead, but we need to ensure that we don't break these crates near our ship. We need to proxy up onto those crates and then ledge proxy off of those crates. You'd think we could just go through the hole in the wall, but it's sealed. We need to land on top of the tube instead, and then proxy off of that to go all the way over the cliff instead. We can land right on top of the bolt grabber gadget. We actually can't get back out of this room. We can't get a proxy anywhere in here, so I had to save and load again. The rest of our first visit to Quartu is easy. All we need to do is swing over this gap and defeat all the enemies. We can even use decoy clipping to go right through this door before we're supposed to. This gets us the first of 2 gold bolts on this level. But if we get inside this room before we're supposed to, none of the crates here have loaded properly. Weird. Once we complete the giant Clank fight, we get an info bot for planet Kalebo. So now we head there. We can just walk straight onto the landing pad on this planet too, so that's a nice change of pace. Kalebo has 2 paths to choose from near the start, but considering one of those paths leads directly to a long grind rail section, which requires many jumps, we take the other path instead. There's nothing here we can't beat casually until we come to this gap. We're supposed to shoot the button to turn off the laser door and then hover down through it before they come back on. Without a jump or a proxy, we're not making it over this gap, and a proxy would take too long anyway. Plus, if you're too late, Ratchet grabs the edge and we can't pull ourselves up. However, we don't need to go through the door if we can just skip it altogether. 1 ledge proxy later and we're already over it. Another proxy to get over here, and we can reach the swing shot target if we just walk over the edge and hover from here. We could move on from here with the swing shot, but if we proxy up here, we can see a doorway far along this building. We proxy to the roof, and then we proxy again, and then hover down all the way to the entrance of that door to grab the first of 2 gold bolts on Kalebo. There's even a teleporter here, which we're not supposed to be able to reach yet. We were meant to use this teleporter to get to this gold bolt normally, and we can use this teleporter now to go to the end of the grind rail path without ever having to use the grind rail in the first place. 1 more ledge proxy from here to get up the ladder, and this gets us the Map-O-Matic. We can bypass a big chunk of this level with a decoy clip through this laser door near the start. There's an NPC here who triggers the second hoverboard race, but we still don't have the hoverboard. Here's where we run into a problem. The second gold bolt on this level is actually on the grind rails themselves. It's located right here near the very bottom right of the map. Unlike in the Blarg Station, we cannot hover into the grind rail to stay suspended. We just start falling as soon as we touch the grind rails. Also, we cannot grind on any of these grind rails anyway, unless we start at the beginning of the grind rail section. Annoyingly, we also can't stand on these barricades either, despite them having what looks like a flat surface. We hoped we could reach a platform high enough to proxy from and then just hover to the gold bolt. We can get on the curved metal parts of this building, but this still isn't close enough, or even high enough to reach any other building. We tried to proxy from all over the level to reach any solid looking part of the level, in the hopes that we could get closer to where that gold bolt is, and we had no luck at all. The community threw themselves at this level in the vain hope of somehow reaching that second gold bolt, but we just couldn't pull anything off. Except for one thing. There is a glitch in this game that I have never seen before making this video, and it's insane. First of all, we actually need the hoverboard to pull it off, which means we need the info bot back on planet Novalis to unlock planet Aridia. So, let's head back there. We just need to try a bit harder this time. The speedrun community took a look at Novalis, and it turns out all we had to do was get a bomb proxy against this wall. The rectangular panel sticking out of this wall is sloped enough to get us the height we need. We proxy from this rock and hover down to the left of the cave. We just need to make sure not to go too far to the right mid-hover or we'll hit an invisible cliff. We can proxy along the outside of this cave to reach this red corner. Despite what it looks like, the grey part next to us is not solid, but the slightly higher grey part is solid. We proxy over to that, and from here we are quite close to the room that we weren't able to reach the first time we were here. We can see the final gold bolt of the level above. We hit a ledge proxy and make sure to hover on the left side like this, since the ledge extends a bit further here. This gives us that third and final gold bolt of planet Novalis. We can now fall over the edge and hover down to reach this door. Now it's just a few ledge proxies to reach any part of the waterworks we need to be. It's a good thing there are gaps in the floor over the water slide, or we wouldn't be able to use ledge proxies to get to the top. With that, we finally meet the plumber for the first time. For the second time. What? Whatever. We have the the info bot for Aridia now, so let's head there. It's so weird to see Aridia so low down on the list of planets. I never even clocked on to the fact that the planets are listed in the order that you unlock their info bots. Did you ever notice that the missiles being fired from this giant cannon are actually T-posing enemies? Because I sure didn't. Skid is so close to the landing pad, so we help him first by eliminating the sand sharks. They are very easy to kill with our more advanced weaponry, but some of them are hiding on higher platforms that we're supposed to jump to. However, we can just kill them from the ground thanks to the Visi-Bomb. There is a rock we can break here too, and behind it we find the first of 4 gold bolts on planet Aridia. Once we take out all the sand sharks, we get zipped up to this high ledge so that Skid can give us a hoverboard. This is all we need for the crazy glitch on Kalebo, but since we're here we may as well finish planet Aridia first. We take advantage of being up here with a ledge proxy through Skid's crashed ship. We can now proxy our way all the way over the mud to reach a second gold bolt, but this one is just out of our reach. There aren't any ledges here to get a proxy off, and I wasn't having much luck getting a bomb proxy off the truck either. However, this is when we started to realise just how useful the strafe with the thruster pack is. Strafing allows us to slightly hover up inclines, no matter how steep they are. It actually works better right at the start of a strafe, and if we're moving sideways. We couldn't quite get onto the truck like this, but if we strafe up the side of the tyres just slightly, we can get just close enough to the gold bolt to trigger the cutscene of us grabbing it. There is an edge here that we can use for a proxy, and this lets us hover all the way towards the end of a different path where Skid's agent is waiting for us. The magna boots get us up here, and there is a big step in front of us. A single ledge proxy gets us over it though, and that is another gold bolt. Now we can just backtrack along the path that we're on, drop down, and hover down a couple of times. Step onto this elevator and surprise all the enemies who were expecting us to approach from the opposite side. A ledge proxy gets us over this gap and at the start of the swing shot section. The swing shot does all the work for us here, no jumps or proxies are needed at all. We did need to quickly let go of this target and start to hover to reach the conveyor belt though. We even got the skill point here for not touching the floor in the final room. This finally gets us the trespasser, the gadget we've been missing for most of the game. Also dropping down here gets us the 4th and final gold bolt of planet Aridia. We go through the trespasser door and drop down here. We're actually soft locked now in a jump plus run. There's no way out of here. There are no ledges to proxy off nor any sloped walls, so it's a good thing we can just save and load to get back to the ship. The landing pad in Aridia can just be walked on too. Anyway, now that we have the hoverboard, we can finally return to Kalebo and perform the insane glitch. First of all, before doing this glitch, it's highly advised that you make a backup save first, so I saved the game in 2 separate slots. Next, we open the weapons screen from the pause menu. I don't have all the weapons yet, but if I did, there would be 15 weapon icons displayed in a 5x3 grid. All weapons have a unique ID number ranging from 0 to 14. If, for example, I were highlighting the bomb glove, which has an ID of 0, and then I pressed right on the D-pad, the game would realise that it needs to add 1 to that 0, thus putting us onto the pyrociter, since that weapon has an ID of 1. If we press down instead, it would add 5, since the weapon below has an ID of 5. This menu wraps too, so if we press left, it would highlight the weapon on the opposite side, which means it's adding 4 to the ID to get to the weapon with an ID of 4. Simple stuff so far. However, we can move our cursor on this screen with both the D-pad and the left analog stick. This allows us to confuse this menu. If, for example, we highlighted the decoy glove in the bottom left corner, and then pressed both left on the D-pad and right on the left analog stick at the same time, the game tries to add 4 and add 1 at the same time. This would put our highlighted ID at 15, which is 1 higher than it's ever supposed to be. Our cursor disappears since it's actually gone out of bounds. We can move the cursor around while out of bounds. However, if we highlight any invalid ID numbers, the game crashes immediately. The fact is, all items in the game have their own unique ID numbers. The weapons just use the first 14 numbers, including 0. If we start navigating our cursor while out of bounds, if we know where we're going, we can highlight things like the thruster pack in the weapons menu, which you're never supposed to be able to do. We can even press X on things to equip them, even things you're never supposed to be able to equip from this menu, and we're looking to do just that. Here's what we need to do. We highlight the weapon with an an ID of 4, which is in the top right corner, and then we press both left on the D-pad and right on the left stick at the same time. The game tries to both -4 and -1 at the same time. Since we're on 4, this puts our currently highlighted ID at -1. Now if we want to reach the item that we want to equip and avoid all the invalid IDs on the way, this is the sequence of inputs we need to make. Left 4 times, up, right, up 15 more times, left, up 3 times, and now for the hard part. We need to press both left and up at the same time. One input on the D-pad and the other input on the left stick. It has to be frame perfect too. Once we get that, we have to do it a second time. This is so we can move our cursor diagonally to avoid invalid IDs. Once we've done that, we press left 3 more times, and now we are highlighting the hoverboard. We press X to equip the hoverboard, and now there are 2 ratchets. One is holding an invisible weapon and the other has the hoverboard at his feet. We then close the menu and this happens. The game is not prepared for us to be using the hoverboard outside of the racetrack. We can't stop moving forward in this state. So much as bumping into anything even slightly results in a wipeout, which respawns us at wherever the game thinks the last part of the racetrack we touched was. Of course, the game thinks the main level itself is the racetrack, kinda. So we just end up spawning all over the place. Just know that this glitch only works on either planet Rilgar or Kalebo, since they're the only 2 planets with racetracks. If we did this on any other planet, the game would just immediately crash. Now, the way we're able to make use of this glitch is the fact that we can perform tricks in the air if we hold L1, and in this state we can use that to gain infinite height. This even works without the zoomerator. All we need to do is hold up on the left stick and L1 to send us sky high. There is a problem though. When racing normally, the game respawns you back onto the track if you start racing the wrong way. This still happens during this glitch. We just kinda can't really tell which way the wrong way is. If we pause the game, we have the option to quit the race, which respawns us back at our ship. From here, we can quickly turn left to avoid a wipeout, follow the level's main path, and then use L1 to take off. We can guide our way towards the grind rails from here without respawning. The issue now is that we can't move the camera at all, so we can't see what's below us, and we can't open our map like this either. We need to get above where the gold bolt is and then freefall onto it. It took me dozens of attempts. I would fall into the water over and over, but finally I was just able to touch the gold bolt on the way down. The game auto-saves when we get the gold bolt, which seems perfect since we can't pause and manually save in this state. We figured all we had to do now was reboot the game and check if the bolt was still in our inventory. Except after a reboot, the game still remembers that the hoverboard was the last thing we had equipped. So the hoverboard hell continues. This means the only way out of this is to somehow change what is equipped to Ratchet's feet. We can't open the menu, and we can't trigger things like Gadgetron vendors, and we can't access the ship, and we can't even open our quick select. We had the idea of falling down to the track below and actually trying to win the race like this, but the game just respawns us again every time. Another idea was to see if we could reach the NPC that triggers the race, but we can't even get close to that NPC without respawning again. Our final idea was to land onto the grind rail, which should automatically equip our grind boots and thus unequip the hoverboard, but as we already mentioned, we can only begin a grind at the start of the grind rail section. We can't reach the start of the grind rail section for the same reason we can't reach the NPC. The game just keeps respawning us. Basically, this save file is now bricked. This is why we wanted to backup save before doing this. We had no choice but to reload our backup save file and find another way to reach that gold bolt. What a shame. This was the point I sought help from the speedrun community, and one of the members, Atapi, discovered this. If we perform a ledge proxy while strafe hovering, Ratchet still gains height, but he drops again quickly. However, if we very quickly wrench swing during the proxy, we maintain full proxy height, and then we maintain our strafe hover in midair. The reason we want this is that it's possible to proxy again in midair during a strafe hover. All we need is a wall to press the camera against. This means we can essentially chain proxies over and over as long as there is a wall next to us. I tried this myself and I couldn't do it, so this is Atapis footage. This can be used to get onto the roof of this building, and with a ledge proxy from up here we can hover all the way down to the gold bolt. And we can even land here safely. We save and load, and that is the second gold bolt on Kalebo acquired. Since we're done here, and now that we have the hoverboard, I decided to go back to Rilgar and beat the race there. It was tough without being able to jump. We needed to make sure to hit every single speed boost that we can reach, and avoid all explosive crates. The most difficult part being this line of explosive crates, but sometimes a racer ahead of us will detonate the crate on the far right, so that's our way through. Once we had the perfect race, we get first place no problem. We tried the Kalebo race properly now, but there is a ramp early on in the race. We don't have anywhere near enough speed to make it over this ramp without jumping, and there aren't any speed boosts close enough. We can't build up any zoom with the zoomerator either, since performing tricks properly actually requires jumping first. We'll just have to cut our losses and move on to the second visit to planet Quartu. But we swing by Aridia on the way to get the Sonic Summoner, just so we can say that we got everything. We can just use the teleporter to get back to Sid's agent, no jumps needed. Since we couldn't beat the race on Kalebo, we don't have the Holo Guys, so we need to beat Quartu's stealth section, both without the Holo Guys and without jumping. I figured I'd need a health upgrade for this, so we revisited the vending machine on Orxon first. Just running into this elevator is a bit awkward, but we can make it a lot easier by strafing sideways onto it. We can't use strafe to get back to the ship though, so once again we save and load. I've seen in speedruns that Ratchet can just hover against the slide to reach the end of Quartu right from the start, but I just couldn't get this to work. It might be because we can't get a ledge proxy close enough to the slide, or it might be a skill issue. We can get on top of this rock here near the wall, and then ledge proxy up and over the wall. It might not look it, but we needed that height as this wall extends higher than you'd think. Once we're inside, we need to make sure to take out the robots as fast as we can to ensure they don't hit the alarm. Ledge proxies are the answer to our platforming obstacles, and the Devastator is the answer to the robots. We need to proxy over this barrier, onto the conveyor belt, and then hover down to the ladder. We shoot the robots from here and proxy on over. Several more proxies later and we get stuck below this ledge here. If we stand outside, we can actually proxy up onto the roof of this area instead. I played it safe and took out the robots ahead with the Visibomb. We can grab the swing shot target from here too, but now we can see another button that we need to hit with the thruster pack ground pound. Again, we can't do this without jumping first. We can reintroduce a glitch from planet Umbris though, Ghost Ratchet. We hover down until we're close to the green goo, and then we pull ourselves up again with the swing shot. Now we can go through the upcoming door, and we can even walk through barriers. I died as I ran through though, but we got a checkpoint right at the end of this path. Unfortunately, the cutscene that's supposed to play in this room will only trigger if the robot that killed us is dead, and since we ran through the door with Ghost Ratchet, the door is closed behind us. We are stuck in this room, so we'll have to use a decoy clip to go back, take out the robot, and then get the info bot for Drek's fleet. Before we leave, there is a swing shot target above us, and this brings us to the final gold bolt on Quartu. We need to save and load to get back out again though. Drek's fleet has two paths. One involves falling into the water, so we'll take the other path instead. We teleport to another stealth section that we need to beat without the Holo Guys. There are a couple of barriers, but if we take out the robots, they disappear. We could blow up this robot through the barrier since he's close enough, but we can also hit him with a wrench through the barrier. There is the issue of these lasers though. There are loads of them. We can't jump over them, we can't damage boost through them, and there are no proxies we can get here. However, the walls either side of every single laser is ever so slightly sloped away from us, which means we can strafe slightly up and over the lasers. I have become an absolute believer in the thruster pack strafe. I love that it's actually become very useful. The camera fights us sometimes on these laser strafes, especially in the smaller rooms, but we managed to avoid every single one of them. Is this crate always half inside the wall all like this? Let me know. We can reach the fighter jet with the Magna Boots just fine, destroy the turrets and move on. This was when I first learned that Ratchet can actually strafe over metal surfaces in this game. I never knew this, it's so much faster. This laser looks higher than the others, but we can still just strafe over it. Also, did you know the robot dogs on Drek's fleet can be sucked up with the suck cannon, despite not being able to suck up the same robot dogs on planet Kerwan? Weird. We tried to strafe across the slope sides of this laser grid, and it did not work. We ended up having to damage boost our way across. We can see the first of 2 gold bolts ahead of us, but there's no way we're getting over to it with only 1 health left. I tried to get a bomb proxy here, but it just did not work. The moving lasers seem to prevent us from getting a ledge proxy too. However, there is a door behind the gold bolt. We've been on the other side of that door already. It's just locked from this side. If we destroy the yellow things, the door unlocks. If we death abuse now, we respawn where we found the fighter jet. If we then backtrack from here, we can return to the other side of that door, and the game remembers that the door is now unlocked. We grab the gold bolt inside and use the metal path to reach the end. This gives us the info bot for planet Veldin. Now for the second path. We're supposed to swim through a long underwater tunnel, but of course we won't be able to jump back out of the water at the end. All we need to do is decoy clip through the glass above the tunnel and then walk over the top of it. The clip is a bit awkward, but there is a vendor nearby so we can always restock our decoy ammo. There is a room off the side with the second gold bolt inside. We need to decoy clip into that room from the outside. It's quite tricky to do since we're on a sloped surface, but it is possible. Once we get through, we need to be very careful not to fall into the electric water. We walk around the edge of the room slowly and claim the second gold bolt. We save and load to return to our ship, and then we decoy clip back outside again. Now we want to run all the way to the end of the tunnel to reach the final room. The problem is there are invisible gaps right before the room, and we don't want to fall into them. If we did, we would fall straight into the electric water. However, give another point to thruster pack strafing, as this gets us over this gap somehow. We drop through the top of the escape pod and then grab the code bot. We save and load to get back to the start of the level, and we fly back to planet Quartu to use that code bot. You might be wondering why we're bothering to do this, considering we already used the decoy clip to bypass the code bot door. However, if we open this door with the code bot, as soon as we break a few of the crates in this room, we are immediately awarded 15,000 bolts. Look at our bolt total shoot up. We went from 22,000 bolts to 37,000. Now we can afford the second health upgrade on planet Orxon, which gives us 8 hit points, which we might need for our second visit to planet Veldin. Remember this step we had to proxy over the first time we were here? Well, we can just strafe over it now. The same goes for this step too. Thruster pack strafe hovering is my new favourite thing in the game. Once we reach the water silo, we hit a roadblock. There's a button down below that opens a door, but we can't press it without jumping. We can just decoy clip through the door instead, but right behind the door is a small corridor with a ladder. There's no way for us to proxy in here, so we can't grab this ladder. What we can do is proxy from the top of the silo and over to this tunnel, and inside we find the first of 3 gold bolts. We're still stuck though. All that's here is another ladder, but we can at least death abuse to get back to the water silo since that was a checkpoint. We do the same proxy, but this time we aim for the ladder, but the ladder only gets us so far. Wall jumps are required to reach the top here, and it's just out of reach with a ledge proxy. Here's how we solved that. Back at the water silo, we proxy up here again, but this time we grab a bit of metal instead. I can't believe this is even solid, to be honest. It's a very thin platform, but we can proxy off it and go over the wall to land on this building. This skips a bit of the level, and there's a gold bolt there, so we had to backtrack a little bit. We decoy clip through this barrier, use the trespasser to remove the barrier just in case, swing over the gap and use even more ledge proxies to reach the second gold bolt. There are plenty of enemies shooting at us from below, below, so it was best to take them out first. We hover down to the platforms directly below us, eliminate the stragglers, and then ledge proxy over to the blue laser barrier. The Taunter's one and only required use in a 100% playthrough of this game is now. We use it to lure the frog onto the button, which removes the barrier, and now we have all 3 gold bolts on Veldin. It looks like we're stuck in here, but the pipe entrance is sloped perfectly to allow for a bomb proxy. We return to the furthest point that we've reached so far. These water pits seem to trap us, but once again strafing comes to the rescue, only for us to be stuck at the bottom of yet another ladder. It's across a gap and inside a small corridor too, so we're not getting up there. I did discover a way by it though. If we make our way back to the platform that we found the second gold bolt, there is another platform even higher up. If we proxy on the right side, there is no canopy in our way, and we can hover over to the higher platform. I always wondered if this platform was solid since we're never supposed to be up here. The building in front of us is where we want to be. The closest part of this platform with no canopy above us is here, so we just need to hope that this is good enough. We just made it over. The roof isn't solid, so we go right through. We need to make sure that we land in this pipe and not in the water below, or we'll get stuck down there. It's very awkward to get a proxy on the edge of this pipe. We tend to hit our head on the top of the pipe every time. Thankfully, the top of the ladder here makes it possible to stand a bit further outward, making it just possible to ledge proxy our way above. With that, we finally reach the giant Clank section, and following that, we reach the final boss fight against Drek. After each phase of the boss, we need to make our way across these falling platforms. It is possible to grab the edge of them as we fall, but if we hover at the end of each swing, we shouldn't need to. A big issue we face are the shockwave bombs that Drek fires. We can't jump to avoid the damage from them. It's a relatively well-known strat in the Ratchet community, but on the European PS3 version of this game, which is what I'm playing, the Pyrociter deals immense damage to Drek, but only if we're very close to him. Depleting a chunk of Drek's health ends the phase, and the Pyrociter makes quick work of him, but at the end of each phase he breaks the ground apart and flies away. It's oddly difficult to get ledge proxies here for some reason. The camera just won't go low enough a lot of the time. Also, I even fell right through the floor at one point. There is an easier way though, and it actually requires us to start the level all over again. But before we do that, we would like to purchase a better weapon for this fight. The Pyrociter has the damage but not the range. The best weapon for the job is the Rhino. We just need 150,000 bolts to afford it first. There is a classic infinite bolt farm in this game, and it's on planet Rilgar. We make our way back to the NPC that starts the Hoverboard Race, and then we ledge proxy onto this roof. There's a part of this roof that is close enough to the racetrack. We can hover all the way down to it and then traverse the track on foot. We run all the way around the track until we see a very tall stack of crates above us. All we need to do is stand beneath those crates, equip the Taunter, and hold circle. The Taunter can break crates, and its range is wide enough to hit the crates above us. The unique thing with the crates on the track though, as long as we can't see them, they respawn infinitely. This means we can just stand here holding circle and the bolts will rain down onto us forever. It's kinda slow, but if you have a way of keeping the circle button held down automatically, or if you have a turbo controller like me, then you can just AFK while we get rich. When we eventually have enough bolts, we can just save and load and then head over to the Rhino Salesman. By the way, did you know that the O2 mask makes you completely immune to these enemies that shoot the gas at you? Even the tanks can't hurt you when you're wearing this thing. Before we go back to Veldin though, I just wanted to show something. Do you remember the member of the speedrun community, Atapi, who came to our rescue with the second Kalebo gold bolt? Well, they also recently figured out the hoverboard race on Kalebo without jumping. I followed their instructions and I pulled it off myself, so here's how. At the start of the race, we hit the speed boost and then go over the edge towards these rocks. This triggers a checkpoint ahead of the ramp that we couldn't jump over, but this also leaves us dead last. We can trick the game into putting us all the way into first place. We need to use the ramp on the left to land inside the shortcut tunnel, but facing the wrong way. We need to drive through this tunnel for a few seconds and then wipe out. When we respawn, we are suddenly in first place. We can then finish this lap as normal, as there are now no more ramps we need to jump off, but we will also need need to hit both of the tricks again on all 3 laps to maintain the lead until the end. It's challenging but doable, and with that, we do actually earn the holo, guys. We don't need it anymore, but it's cool that we can get it. Anyway, back to Veldin. We have a way to skip all the way to Drek's final phase. When we reach the checkpoint at the top of the water silo, it's possible to walk over the metal floor and then onto the wall from there without falling down. If we walk back up where the fence is, we fall through the ground and into the water, but out of bounds. We can now swim in air. We swim through this wall to get under the level. If we swim onto part of the rock here, we can get just high enough to end the swim in air, but we're still standing on the rock. From here, we are just in range of a swing shot target above us, and we can use it to pull us back in bounds. Now we can use the swing shot targets to once again trigger Ghost Ratchet. We want to go through the wall right here, and then turn around and use the sloped bit of wall above us to slowly push us down through the ground. This gets us far enough into the water to trigger a swim in air once again. We swim down into this wall, and this pushes us down even more, thus clipping us through the ground. The reason we wanted to get a swim in air for the second time is that the water from this river is actually higher than the initial water that we used, so this allows us to swim at a slightly higher altitude. From here, we can swim directly underneath the platform right before the Drek fight. But we don't want to swim too close to the center of the platform. If we do, Drek will spawn in early, and we don't want that. Instead, we swim around the outside of the platform, being only just under it, and then we head towards the next platform. We know we've got it right if we don't see any of the swing shot targets spawn in. When we get this far, we look to the left to see a gap in the cliff, and we can swim through that gap to reach the final platform. We can only just get onto the final platform by swimming through the gap at the side, as swimming any lower than this might mean hitting a death plane. We swim up and get latched onto the grind rail automatically. When Drek spawns in, he had already lost 3 chunks of his health bar, since that's how much damage we would normally be required to deal to move Drek to this final platform. As Drek takes damage now, he will trigger a 30-second countdown. If we don't ground pound the buttons before the timer runs out, we instantly lose the fight. We can't jump, so we can't ground pound, and Drek will do this 3 times in the fight. But this is why we bought the Rhino. It's so powerful and its range is so good that we can defeat Drek before the first timer can even finish counting down. Drek has been defeated, the galaxy is saved, and what's more, we were able to collect every item, every gadget, and every gold bolt in the game, all without a single jump. However, after the final boss fight, there is one more button that we are required to ground pound. Otherwise, the final cutscene won't play and the credits won't roll. Not to mention that Ratchet and Clank are also stuck on this final platform until we do. There is no known method of skipping this button. We can use a ledge proxy to get on top of the button, but we're stuck from there. We can even clip inside the button with a decoy clip, but that doesn't help either. But maybe, just maybe, Ratchet has one final jump left in him. This goes against all Doctor's advice, but this is to save the galaxy. Let's just hope his knees can take it. Drek's planet is destroyed, the galaxy is safe, the inhabitants can rest easy, but at what cost? Can we beat Ratchet and Clank without jumping? No, and all thanks to one single button right at the end of the game. Get well soon, Ratchet. The galaxy may be in need of you again one day. Again, thank you to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. You can play it for free now on PC, PlayStation, Xbox or mobile by using my links in the pinned comment or the video description. New and returning players who haven't played in 6 months will receive a massive bonus pack on PC and consoles, including multiple premium vehicles and more. Remember, it's only available for a limited time, so act now. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed challenge runs like this, then please subscribe. We have so many more that you can watch right now. You could even go the extra mile if you wanted and support me by either becoming a YouTube member or a patron. That's what all these fine people have done, and I reward them with exclusive videos and early access to these videos. If you want to see any of my other Ratchet challenge runs, the playlist is linked on screen now. Or maybe you'd like to jump over to Jak and Daxter challenge runs instead. I'll link that one too. I hope Ratchet can recover in time for the sequel. Or Clank will have to go it alone. Wait, does a Clank-only mod exist?